Hey there, friends. It is your extra build discussion video for Rose Quartz sword. We've made a ton of progress. This is the raw 3D print that has been sanded. I'm going to do some priming in a little bit and then some more sanding. But to get it this far, here's what I've done. Everything was modeled in Fusion 360. It went fairly well. A lot of straightforward shapes on here. The part that was the most tricky was the guard here. I had to do some lofting. If you've ever worked with Fusion 360, you know that lofts are the devil, but sometimes they're necessary. It was the only way I could figure out how to do it. But it turned out okay. I ended up splitting it. You can see a seam right here. I split it right there, and I actually used the face from that split to loft this handle. And then this part on here, not handle, but the knuckle guard. The top part of the guard was just a simple sphere that was squished a little bit. So that was really the only tricky part. The rest of it was pretty straightforward. The other challenges, though, when you're trying to make a three-dimensional model of something from a two-dimensional animation is some things get lost a little bit in translation. So most of this is pretty straightforward. A blade, this collar down here. But this part, the pommel, is a little weird. The drawing I have is fairly nondescript. It doesn't really give me any information about the three-dimensional form, although some people said it was supposed to look like
rosebud.
Yeah, rosebud. My first thought was that there would be a gem on the end of it, so I'm kind of rolling with that. I could 3D model a different pommel. In fact, I tweaked my original design a little bit. But I like my idea of having a gem in there, so I have a little 3D print of my gem. This will eventually get molded and cast sparkly and clear, but that's going to go in right there. And I just think that's a really cool look. So that's kind of my own interpretation of how that part should look. The printing went pretty well. I did have one failure. The gem I'm printing on the form, I printed on the Ultimaker. I'm also printed one on the form because I figure it'd be easier to sand. I had one print fail. I don't know why. I printed it again, and there's a line across the middle of it. Something weird went on during the print. The tank on that printer, there's a optically clear silicone on the bottom of it, and it looks like that's peeling up, and I'm wondering if I need to replace that. Anyway, the print looked okay. I should be able to sand this down to perfect, and if it doesn't work, I have the FDM one as a backup. And again, the gem will get molded so we can cast it in something transparent and shiny. And that'll probably be one of the last things we do. The rest of the printing, super duper straightforward, especially like the blade parts, didn't even need any support. The guard, that was a little bit more janky. I had to use a lot of supports for that because they're really weird organic shapes. My settings in Cura, I got to tweak them a little bit more. The print or the support material really bonded to the inside of there, but I planned on it by putting the support on the inside so that if it was a little gnarly, we wouldn't see it. I got it sanded pretty smooth. I see a couple spots that'll need some filling, and we'll do that after I've primed everything. The assembly went really well. So far, I haven't actually used any glue yet. All of the assembly has been done with acetone and my acetone slurry. So this is just acetone and ABS filament. I even threw in some of the support material from this sword, and it dissolves it into this slurry that I use on the Ultimaker to get the prints to stick down to the bed. I'll brush a bunch of this slurry on the glass, and it's a nice thin layer of plastic that gets warm and soft when you print, and the prints stick really well to it. Well, I also use that as a glue on the 1/4 inch threaded rod that goes down the whole length of this thing. So that's how I glued the rod in. And then the flat surfaces between two pieces, the faces between these, I just brushed a little acetone on either one of those and then smushed it together. And that glued it together really well. And then to fix the seam, I used a hot knife and a piece of ABS filament and filled that in and sanded it, and it feels great. Now, I know there's going to be some little pock marks and stuff there I'll have to fix up. I can't really see them yet, but when I prime it, that's when they'll all show up. Other than that, it's not fully assembled yet. Here, I'll take it apart for you. This is kind of the last piece. The pommel goes on the end there. And then this all comes off like so. So we got a cylinder handle. I've got that part. Got my guard, probably the part I'm the most proud of. Collar goes on like so. And I had been hoping I could keep all these parts separate for painting, but I think I'm going to have to assemble it first because the paint is gonna add too much thickness and these parts may not fit together really well. So I'll put everything except for the pommel together so I have a way to hang it for when I'm doing the final paint. And then the very last thing I'll do is glue this guy on the end. Coming up, I've got to do some priming and then more sanding. This is currently a 200 grit finish, but I need this thing to be super shiny. So after priming, I'll sand it again, probably down to a 400 grit, and then we'll see if it needs more work from there. But then I can start assembly and painting, which is very exciting. This project has been a whirlwind. It's coming together really quickly. I only modeled this a week ago, so it's been a very productive week, and I'm super, super happy with how it's turning out. The blade is actually still pretty straight. The finish is feeling really good, and I'm loving how it's turning out. If you have any questions about this build, let us know in the comments. We'll get back to you. If you have any suggestions too, although we're probably going to start painting this in the next day or two. So comments are always welcome, but we may not get them in time. Of course, any suggestions you have for future projects are always welcome. I think that's everything for the build so far. I'm excited to get this finished up and show it to you guys. I'm really excited for it to look all shiny and sparkly and glossy. That's going to be really, really fun. I hope you guys are excited to follow along and see the final video that's going to come out in a couple weeks. And thank you so much for hanging out with us in the shop every week and supporting everything we do. I know I say it every week, but I mean it. We can't do this without you. We have 2 employees in the shop right now. Paige is right over there, and Everett's visiting from LA. He's in the office getting work done. And your contributions make it possible for us to keep paying them. Thank you again so much. You guys are fantastic. Keep it up. I'm excited to see what you're working on next. And I'm excited to finish this project up. So we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.